see if we can get Raven and Danielle here. How does it work? Okay. Beta reader Dani, where are you? There she is. And Raven. There she is. Okay. I've invited them. Hey, folks. Let's see if they get here. No, my brother Max is requesting to join. I think not. I sent you an invite, Raven and Danielle. So it should work. Bear with us. We have not done this before. Okay, let me try again. Let me try again. Wait, where'd you go? Okay. No, Max, I will not let you in. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, Danielle. Raven, where are you? I am accepting. Did I not accept? I said accept. Oh. Hey, Danielle. It said a Raven could not join. I was like, what do you mean? Hold on. Let me.
She's not allowed.
She is not. Sorry, Raven. You were uninvited. Oh, there she is. It keeps like putting it down. I'm like, I am hitting accept.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, no,
Hey.
it was. Hey,
Raven, your hair's so long.
I know. Am I making You what?
Why don't you have the longest hair out of all of us?
This is illegal. That has never happened in my entire life. That's so weird. I was just thinking I need to get an appointment for Friday, hopefully, to long pixie it up because this is a main.
Wait,
oh my gosh, I can't
Danielle,
believe
did you
longer.
just get your hair cut? Is that what we were? No, you have.
No, I want to.
Okay.
Wait,
did I miss something
Nice.
very important? Anyway, we have some folks here. Hi, everybody. You probably know me because if you're here, you probably watch all my random stories. Can hear my dog walking over here.
Nice.
But you have probably heard of Beta Reader Dani and Beta Reader Raven, but they are here tonight for our first episode of That's the Butts Live. And we are going to talk all about beta reading, and because y'all get to see a lot on my Instagram stories, but you definitely don't see everything. But Danielle and Raven see everything. So I will let them introduce themselves. Let's start with Danielle because you get to see my drafts first.
Yeah.
We're going in draft reading order. So hello. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Who are you?
I'm the person who reads them first. I am the person whose snarky comments you've probably seen in Sarah's Instagram stories. I want everyone to know that I don't write things with the intent of ending up in Sarah's Instagram stories. Sometimes I press enter on a comment and I go, oh, well, I'll be seeing that later.
Well,
so
tell
yeah,
me,
I don't know.
What do you do for your job?
Nice.
Oh yeah, I guess that's relevant. I work in the library. I like to make displays based around memes, and I read so much. So not on the job. We don't read at work.
Unless it's not busy. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes I read Sarah's drafts at work. I hope my boss does not join this Instagram live.
You didn't hear that.
But yeah, so I read a ton of romance. I read a lot of arcs on NetGalley, and I don't know. It's kind of just, it wasn't a genre I read actually more than a few years ago. And then I suddenly got very, very into it because someone I work with pointed out, well, if you like watching them so much, why aren't you reading them? And I was like, oh my God.
You're the one who got me into romance.
Yeah.
Did you suggest Wellnet to me? I think you did.
Yeah.
And now Jen DeLuca and I have the same editor. Like, how weird is that?
Wild.
Okay, and then...
So you're welcome, everybody.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yes.
Also, when you do your comments, I'm always like, and I'm sharing them like, Danielle's not going to be mad about this, right? I'm like, if she is, she'll tell me.
I love it. I love seeing it because then I know that when I get to the draft that we have some spicy Danielle comments that I get to read through too.
Also,
It
Danielle,
means I'm getting an A at beta reading, which is normal to want and possible to do.
your meme displays for the library are so funny that I know I've shared some on Twitter, but what was the one that you just recently did?
I just did Florals for Spring, groundbreaking. So it's all books with flowers on the cover. It's beautiful.
I'll share
And
a
there's
picture.
Meryl Streep's picture.
I'll
on
share
the-
the picture later so y'all can see. Okay, Raven, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Raven. Oh no,
That's
same
so
thing.
Raven.
That's so me, so much. That's where the po in procrastinator comes from. Um, and for, I don't know, for my work, I work at a grad school and I'm in the alumni
A
development
grad
office.
school, A.
I
Sorry,
mean, yeah, I don't know.
I won't make you disclose what school you work at.
But yeah, basically, if your college or university sends you mail and is like, please give us money, I do that for other people. So I do a lot of like project management and some writing, and definitely a lot of editing and QA work, for website stuff. And also, if you hear me say or do anything awkward or weird or whatever, I have Tourette syndrome, so I might say stuff. Just stuff. Like I'm not saying stuff right now, I just might later. But yeah, I don't know. I also was not into romance until Sarah's books, actually. I was into YA romance, like fantasy romance and historical romance, YA. Like definitely very much into that. But like, yeah, regular romance, Sarah's intro for me.
Well, I feel like especially with a lot of YA readers, because we like grew up when there was a lot of like great YA stuff coming out. That romance, the
Nice.
contemporary romance coming out right now is a really good like bridge into like from YA to
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
kind
It's
of
a very, very gradual, I guess. It's just you age them up and it's like all the same vibes.
the vibes. I mean,
The
we all
vibes.
know we're here for the vibes. And Raven is an excellent writer. We wrote a lot together in college. We started a creative writing club together in
Yeah.
college. that
Co-founders.
was also part of Writer's Block, which I don't think is real, but that's another thing.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I have a few questions that I did prepare. If anyone wants to drop questions in the question box, you can do that too. So the first question that I have is, why do you continue to read my awful drafts? Like, why? What do you get out of this? What sick pleasure do you get from this?
I feel like it's a fun activity. Like,
It is a fun activity.
because it's like you're trying to find things that are good and there's other things that are not good. And so you get to wade through it and like have fun talking about what's working and what's not. I don't know. It's a good time.
It's like, so, okay, so you know how in like Shakespearean times people could be patrons of the arts and they would just like throw money at artists and be like, write me a play, and then they would. It's that.
It's that. I mean, I really do write my books for you, Danielle, because you are the first
That's
one
how you
who
should
reads
do it. Danielle has great taste. You should continue to write specifically to Danielle.
Danielle does have great taste, but I love, so like with Loveless and Fancy Ships, Danielle was like, you're writing this dream man just for me. And then with Luck and Last Resort's like, now I just think you're calling me out.
It's been a slow progression. Anytime a man cooks for his love interest in one of Sarah's books, that's directed at me. Anytime a man rolls up his sleeves, that's directed at me. Anytime Nina exists, that's directed at me.
Yeah, felt.
There's legitimately a conversation that Nina and Ollie have in Luck and Last Resorts that I will not spoil, but is exactly a conversation I had with my now husband.
But I did not know that.
You
I was
didn't
like,
know it. You just pulled it out of the ether to call me out.
I mean, we have talked every day for like 10, 12 years, so, you know, it happens. Okay, we do have one question in
Nice.
here. How many revisions or how fleshed out are my drafts before I send them to Raven and Danielle? This is kind of tough because I don't just send them drafts. I will voice note them constantly. Like, yeah.
Screenshots and then a revised screenshot.
Oh my gosh, like screenshot. Wait, don't read it. Here's another screenshot. I just
Oh my
was
gosh.
working on the retail copy for Last Call at the Local. Do you know who I was talking to about it? Raven and Danielle. So they're involved from the moment I even have an idea. So like the idea that I have for potentially the next book, the first thing I did was voice note Danielle and Raven. But
I'm already excited.
As far as like commenting on drafts, Danielle usually gets to it first just because she is quicker at reading and reads very fast.
Retain nothing.
You're like my vibe check. I get the temperature of something from your response. But so like I was posting my stories, my 0 drafts today. That is not something I would send you because I know that, like, I know what's wrong with that. It's not written fully. Once I feel like I have a chapter, like, okay, this could be read as a chapter. It might be a sucky chapter, but like the insertions, usually I have the insertions taken out. Sometimes I'll have 1 or 2, but that's usually an accident where it's like, put joke here. So, you know, and that's probably like, it's hard to say because I go through it so consistently, but it's pretty much a first draft. Like, I don't even know how many drafts you've already read of Last Call at the Locals first few chapters, like at least 5 or 6. But
Literally, you know, I want to say 14, but I think that's an exaggeration.
It feels like that.
It feels like 14.
Well, when I was submitting my option, because I was like, I know, like, I get this 1 chapter for them to decide if they want to buy it or not. I remember it was like Christmas Eve that Raven was like, you finally got it. I'm like, girl, why are you reading this on Christmas Eve? So this is actually, I think, the earliest you've been involved, Raven, with the book.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a lot of Love Lists and Fancy Ships. I saw a lot of those old original drafts. For the Nita book, I feel like I didn't. I feel like I was really busy or something too.
Yeah.
And so that one is going to be really exciting to see in the final bit because I've seen like a couple of chapters and a couple of those chapters I saw a couple times. Whereas this one, I've definitely read it multiple times, / you voice note what you're doing for stuff. So that way, like, then you work through it and then you're like, okay, 2 drafts later, you're like, okay, now you can look at it.
Yes. Or
and it
I
has
love it when
changed
you're
a
on
lot.
the dock. I love it when you're on the dock and I'm like, I have to run. I'm like, wait, don't read it. I just revised this. Stop. And you're like,
right. And I was like, what did you do at this part? You're like, oh, did you look at that an hour ago? It's already gone. You're like, oh, never mind.
Well, this is my problem with like, this is why I'm very fortunate to have y'all because I write very quickly and I revise very quickly and things change very quickly. And so like, I don't have a critique partner per se because I don't think they could keep up with my rapid commenting, I suppose. Okay, we have another question from Books Everywhere. Hello. How do you recommend finding beta readers? Okay, people ask me this all the time, and I'll ask y'all if you have ideas. First of all, actually, before I'll answer that, and then my question to you is, do you beta read for other people? I kind of know the answer to this since you're just my best friends, but I am the worst person to ask like how to find beta readers because all of my beta readers are just people in my real life like that I actually know. Like my mom has beta read for me, and you would think like, oh, great job, honey. No, that is not my mom. Like she is like, this is bad. Thank you, Mom. This was better the last time. Thanks, Mom. Which is fine. I expect that. That's why I give it to her. But wow, the question fell out of my head. Oh, I don't have any recommendations to find beta readers because like other than you two, so you two work with me throughout the whole thing. And once I feel I have a draft, and sometimes I'll send it to them in chunks. I have 2 friends locally who beta read for me at a later stage. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later, but they're really there when I'm like, okay, I have got this through the ringer as much as I can at this stage with Danielle and Raven. Now I will yeet it out to the Raleigh people. And Marco kind of, he's one of my first, Marco's my husband. He's one of my kind of like first readers too. Sometimes I don't want him to give me feedback. I just want him to tell me it's nice. And sometimes I do. It's easier to be annoyed at his feedback than y'all's. Okay, so do you beta read for other people? And do you have any recommendations for how writers can find beta readers maybe?
No, I'm not currently seeing other people, if that's what you're asking me.
Okay, I thought this was an
We're
exclusive relationship.
purely monogamous.
That's really what Sarah's getting at. No, I have read a friend's very revised though. Like I was like a last like I'm writing this thing and I'm gonna query it out. Like, would you want to read it? And let me know if anything is, let me know what works and if anything didn't. And mostly I was just like, babe, I can't keep track of all these characters. I'm so sorry. But that's a me problem. That wasn't a her story problem. And so that wasn't so much what we do with your drafts. And I kind of missed it. I was like, oh no, what do you mean you don't want me to live tweet my reactions in the Google Doc for you?
It's my favorite part of the whole author process when I'm working on a book is like, it's very motivating for me. I'm like, especially because you read so fast, Danielle, I'm like, ooh, I sent Danielle a chapter.
Instant gratification.
Yes, and you all know I just want constant attention and validation. Even if it's like, this part is actually a red flag and not hot at all.
Which has happened.
Yeah.
No, but
travel
if anyone wants to support my dream of never going to work again, you can pay me to beta read your stuff.
Yeah, if you are looking for an excellent beta reader, Danielle is excellent, and I don't pay her because I'm a horrible person, and also poor. But you can pay her to do it and get the joy that I get from working with Danielle. Raven,
so in terms of like, I wouldn't know where to find people randomly, but I would say if you have any friends that are readers and like they don't also have to be writers. Like I am not a writer. Did I go through and find some like very old Google Docs with like 3 sentences of ideas in them? Yes, I did. I'm not gonna share that at this point, but
Danielle was also in writer's block.
Yeah, I was in the writing club. Did I win Nano like 2 years in a row when we were doing it? Yes. Our lives at work.
I still think about your superhero story.
Yes.
About the paper pusher and the superhero exec headquarters.
And now we have Marvel fatigue, so I can never do anything with that idea, but that's fine.
Superheroes don't sell well anyway, so.
No, it's not worth it. I'll have to adjust. Anyway, I don't write anything. So you don't need like writer friends necessarily. Like it's nice, I think, to have that as well, because I know Raven gives much better actual constructive criticism than I do about a lot of things. But if you have any friend, and like I wouldn't be shy about it either. Like I think that Sarah is honestly like a huge part of how you have so many people in your circle is that you talk to everybody and are not shy and are just like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to also do this thing? Like you're I don't want to call you a cheerleader because you're not like peppy about it, but like if there's anyone, I wouldn't hesitate to ask people. It's very vulnerable, I know, to share your writing, which is why I don't do any writing or share any of it, because why would I want to be vulnerable? But the rewards, I think, of getting a reader perspective is really good too, because I'm not sitting there thinking about Sarah's craft when I'm reading it. I'm just letting her know what's working for me or not. Like, would I keep reading this book if it was a real book? Yes or no? And that's really helpful too. So even if you don't think you have anybody in your life who could give you super nuanced, like you need to move this around and this sentence doesn't flow for this reason, even just getting someone to vibe check you, it could be nice. And it could go from there. Like, I don't think the first time you asked me to read anything, I was giving you anywhere near as detailed.
I don't even remember how it started. But, I do agree with Danielle that sometimes it's good to not have a reader who is not a writer. And actually, I think most of my readers aren't. And Crystal is here. Hi, Crystal. She is one of my Raleigh beta readers. And I love sharing my work with Crystal. And the thing that's really important is finding readers in your genre, I think, because especially with romance. Because if you're asking someone who writes literary fiction to look over your romance, they might not know what is good in romance versus, literary fiction. So Raven, are you cheating on me with anyone else? And Raven is very much a writer, very much an editor. So
Nice.
Danielle will give me a lot of like vibe checks. Like I take the temperature with Danielle. So even if she doesn't say this chapter sucks, I can tell if it's not vibing, and I'm like, cut it. But Raven is the one who's really good at digging into the craft part. So sorry, Raven, let's hear from you.
Yes, I'm not cheating on you. I tried once in the past. I did twice. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was like in between jobs and I was trying to figure out what I want to do. So I was like, let me just like see if I can beta read, see if I can do that for people other than Sarah or something. But because we used to read each other's stuff even before you were like on the publishing track. And so with those, it was like random people online, and they were clearly at like first or second draft, and you have like 15 or more, depending on how each chapter has its own series of how many times you revised it. And this person would give me like a first or second draft and then a Google questionnaire survey. And it was essentially very leading questions on like, is it perfect? Can I publish it yet? And I was like, oh, you are going to be very upset at me if I do this the way I think it needs to be done for you. So therefore, I will bow out because I do not know you and I do not want to derail everything for you. But you need, and so that happened twice, and I was like, oh well, I'm giving up. I'm sorry.
I give you plenty of work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're very fast. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And it's same thing Danielle was saying. Like, just anybody in your circle, if you want to write a book and get it published, you're going to have like so many people read it, right? That's the hope. So why wouldn't you have so many people in your life do that now? And while still trying to figure out like, oh, someone who's a writer or someone who's a reader in your genre is like, just also go wide, because you'll start to learn who's good at what type of feedback. So someone might be good at craft, someone might be good at vibes, someone might be good at like somebody who's not normally into romance. So what is that person's point of view on this book? And someone might be able to figure out there's something wrong with this chapter, and then they give you a really bad suggestion. Okay, that means there's still something wrong. You don't have to take the rest of the suggestion, but that's very helpful that those people are still able to pinpoint. They might not be able to fix it for you, but they can pinpoint what's wrong. And now you have like hopefully a slew of people who all have different strengths, and that's going to help your draft overall. So I feel like that's kind of what you do, because you cast a wide net with a lot of people. And I feel like that's just the way to go. Like, sure, there's probably like Discords or on Reddit or something where you can like find like-minded people or like find a writing crew. But yeah, definitely start like close, because that's people know you, like, and remember that they're talking about your draft, not you.
Yes.
It's nothing is personal. It can be a dumpster fire, and it's your beautiful dumpster fire. You're gonna put out the fire. Don't worry about it. You got it. But it's a little fire right now.
it's a fire. I mean, everything past. What chapter are we up to in this one? I think in the doc it's like 7.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm halfway through at the top of chapter 4.
And I know what you think about that.
I know.
What was I going to say? You said something so great. Casting a wide net. So, with Loveless and Fancy Ships, I had way more beta readers than I did with Luck and Last Resorts. And I think, especially if you're just starting out finding people, that casting a wide net is good, because you might not have any great beta readers, or some of them just, you don't vibe with each other, they don't get what you're doing, or they don't give you the kind of feedback that's useful. And it doesn't mean they're bad at feedback, just y'all don't gel. And now it's not that I don't gel with some of the people who read Loveless and Fancy Ships, it's just I don't need as many people to read. So it's like, I think we've kind of, now that we're on technically this is the 4th book we've worked on together. We worked on the one that didn't sell. Which I feel
was like a blip of one in the middle.
Yeah, well, and that one, and then that half of
the whole New York trip.
Oh my gosh, okay, y'all, we went to New York on a girls' trip, 2019, good times. It was so fun. We just like walked around and ate food. I was so stressed that whole trip because I was working, my first book didn't sell, and I was like trying to work on this other book, and I was miserable working on that book. I was so miserable. Also, whenever I think about this, remember a random bottle of like shampoo attacked us when we were sitting on a sidewalk? What was that?
Yeah, we were waiting outside that restaurant that had like the homemade pasta for like $10.
It was so good.
Oh, yeah.
And so the wait was forever, but it was worth it. And then there was a shampoo bottle. But yeah, you were very stressed about that book. And like I don't think any of us at the time had the wisdom to be like, girl, maybe you shouldn't be writing that book. Maybe you shouldn't be trying to write that book.
Don't worry,
And then,
my agent did that for us.
yeah, I mean, you got the feedback you needed,
Yeah.
but it definitely changed over time. And like, we still did the same thing again when you were writing Loveless and Fancy Ships, and we were all like, gee, I really hate her first boyfriend. He sucks so bad.
He sucks so
Worse.
much. He made every scene so difficult. You had difficulty writing it. We had difficulty reading it, and nobody.
He was such a douche.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wish Peter would just disappear. It's so crazy that he has to exist. And then finally it was,
Yeah, I remember
like,
the voice
I
that
will
you're like,
never
I just
forget that
realized he
moment.
doesn't need to exist, or like on page, you're like, oh right.
Actually, and you know what? I had this realization today because there's this chat. You know how there's supposed to be a chapter with a pub quiz, like a
Oh,
trivia night? I have been
yes.
avoiding writing this chapter, and I was like, today I was like, wait a minute. Do I need to have a chapter with this? And
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. We'll talk about it. There was another question. Let me see. Do I ever ask you to pay attention to certain things or ask specific questions before you read? I'll let you answer that because I don't remember.
I feel like 30% of the time you do that. I also pulled that number out of thin air, but like it feels in my heart 30% because majority of the time you're like, look at it, just look at it. I just get like
just look
a
at it, just get
Gmail
it
all
from your
caps.
eyeballs.
Look at this graph. And then occasionally, especially if I'm reading on my phone, I read very fast, and so it's more of an impression than a deep dive. And so if you're looking for a deep dive, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like this was good, and this was like you can fix that, whatever. You're like,
Sorry,
okay,
my
but
dog
what about the
joined us
pacing?
before
And then I'm like, oh, I have to pay attention, so I'll read through and then be able to respond. Whereas if I'm on a computer, I might just do that initially. But I feel like most of the time you just throw it at us, unless you're redoing a chapter or a scene over and over, and you're trying to figure out like what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it happens more often when it's like the fourth version of a chapter. You'll be like, oh, I really tried to focus on fixing the flow, or like I redid their conversation. Let me know if they sound like real humans this time. Like, that's more if you've been doing the same thing over and over again. I feel like in general, I just get Google notifications that say ding dong bitch. And
I was gonna say that because that was so like when I add, it's like a one doc and I'll like add to it. I like make sure Danielle knows by like commenting and like at her, and the last one was just ding dong bitch. Yeah, very serious. Ashley M. Duggar wants to know, Beta Reader Raven, where did you get your lipstick?
Well, thank you. I got it from Sephora. I don't know what's the brand. Clinique. Yeah.
Clinique
That's
is
what I got.
great.
It's a little, this guy. Yeah, I dig it.
cute.
I had one for forever, and then I was doing a makeup purge, and I found out how long you're supposed to keep makeup.
We did talk about
So I bought new makeup.
great excuse. Okay,
Yeah.
and here's another question. How do we share chapters and drafts? So the way that I do it, yeah, we do a Google Doc. It's not always shared. So sometimes because Danielle works with me very early, sometimes the chapters like 1 through 3, I've already reworked them a lot. So when it's time for Raven to read, I will give her a separate doc. Right now, they're on the same doc, and I always love when they're on the same doc because they get to comment to each other.
Yes.
And that's because I forced Danielle to read the first few chapters like a bajillion times, and you never complain. I'm always like, Danielle is probably just like, Sarah, but you never complain. Like, what the heck?
Nice.
It's very off-brand for me because I complain about most things.
Well, you know what? If you
Because
did,
I love you.
I would be like, I don't care, read it. But what was it? Oh, so the way I do it, so I draft in Scrivener, and then I will like take a chapter, I'll put it in Google Docs, and I actually really like the grammar checker and like spell checker in Google Docs better than Word anyway. And then, you know, I'll get comments, I will fix them in the doc, and then I will like copy it back into Scrivener. And I also have like a Word. It gets really messy because sometimes I forget where the latest version is. Like, did I edit it there? Did I edit it here? Because sometimes I don't edit the Google Doc itself because I leave the comments there. So hopefully y'all can be more organized than I am. Okay, so
Nice.
I want to know what is your thought process when commenting on drafts? Does it like depend on like where we're at? I just want to know like when you get a notification that says "Ding dong, bitch," and you open that doc, what is your thought process?
Well, my thought process is like I have to remind myself where we are because I have a terrible memory. So I will scroll back just a little bit and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then I'm just reading, like genuinely, it is head empty, no thoughts, just vibes. And I read, I read the chapter and I'm trying to think about like if I'm enjoying myself more than anything else, whereas I think because I know there will be a time to do stuff later, like, oh, does this make sense for their character or whatever? I mean, I'll call out stuff that's out of character really obvious. Oh, I just did something. I was like, oh, Ollie wouldn't say this.
Yes, you did. You're like, Ollie would never. Not that they're not. I'm just kidding.
But I'm like, I know you created them. However,
well, here's the thing. You guys know them as well as I do. I really, truly believe that because you've been with me from the very beginning of these books. So, like, there was something, and you were like, this is too much even for Nina. And I was like, you're right. Like, y'all, and because I'm always talking to you in voice notes about, like, okay, I'm thinking of this backstory and maybe this and this. And some of the stuff doesn't make it on the page. So I really do rely on you two the most because you do know the characters as well as I do.
Yeah, so I'm mostly just reading it and I'm trying not to and it's great because I have terrible memory, I'm trying not to let what you've said outside of the doc color my interpretation of what's going on the page because I'm like, if I was reading this as a fresh, baby brain person, never having read this before. I don't know what comes out of my mouth.
Just all you baby brains out there who haven't read Sarah's books, you can get a big brain by going and buying and reading Sarah's books. No baby brains.
No baby brains. But listen, no, some of your lines that you have put are in the book. Like, you wrote the line about the hunky fridge in chapter 1.
Yeah.
Like, you really did. You're like, you can have it. I'm like, good, because I'm taking it.
Like, I wasn't going to ask. But yeah, I don't know, Raven, I feel like you probably have, like, I'm not very helpful.
You are.
I feel like you're super helpful.
You have different roles.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, I feel like Raven probably goes in with a much more structured brain about it. And you also haven't read as many versions, so I get all the versions confused.
You get all.
Which happens a lot. And I'll be like, wait, I don't know. I can't think of anything that's not a spoiler. But is this the one where they ate chocolate ice cream or the one with vanilla ice cream? And then I don't actually know.
Speaking of ice cream, I am going to change that ice cream scene a little bit. There's not going to be ice cream in it anymore. I feel like such a tease saying things to you because you know what I mean.
I love it.
I hope. Well, Danielle's poor memory actually is probably why you can read my books so many times.
Yeah.
That's why I can do it over and over again because they fall out as soon as I'm done. So get yourself a friend with memory problems.
Yeah, honestly, find someone who has severely deficient memory. Raven, what's your process? I'm guessing it's a little different.
Yeah, I feel like I read really slow. Like, so today I was reading book 3 and I was reading really slowly because sometimes there's certain scenes where I'm like, you've got it down. So if I'm reading quickly enough, the only time I leave a comment, and if it's something that like punches me because I love it and it's so funny and I want to point it out so you don't accidentally remove it later. And then, or something that punches me because something's funky and I don't know why. And so I'll read like the previous 3 or 4 paragraphs in the below and I'll be like, where is the error? And so I'll sit there for a little while. And then sometimes I just am like, oh, well, move on. And then like 2 pages later, I'm like, oh, it was this. Well, like, so I do a lot of, I don't know if it shows up for you, but like I jockey back and forth where my comments are landing because
I don't notice that.
I'm going, oh, okay. Because yeah, I started comment down here, then down here, like and then another one, I was like, oh, wait, that's where this original thing happened. Because I'm reading so slowly, I'm retaining it better. That's not to say I'm going to retain it for a long time, because especially like with your voice notes, I also don't take those into account because I can't remember or I don't know what you have kept or what you have dropped, and therefore everything is just, I'm going to find out when I get there.
Well, and then because sometimes, you'll read something and then Danielle will go over it another like 4 times. My dog is like coughing up a lung. Danielle,
mine is chewing a bone, so if that's annoying, please let me know. I don't know
if it's hear it. I have my like fish tank gurgling over here. So
you just like
any of you, you can tell us. Hi, puppy.
Marlon, you want to be
So
on the
cute.
Instagram live? No, she doesn't.
No. But sometimes, like Raven will read something and then Danielle and I will work on it separately like 3 or 4 times. And then Raven gets it back. And there's really no like set. I feel like we're in a groove, but it's not like a set process.
Yeah. If I know it's like a literal like fresh first draft, I'll be lighter on the edits and it'll be closer to Danielle's vibe check. But like, yeah, I feel like it's like kind of understood, or like you can even sense in your writing how long you've been going over stuff, because then I'm like, this looks like a published book, and then you get like later on you're like, this one's almost published. Like I'm gonna spend longer on this chapter.
Marty, get over
Mercy
here.
Kill.
Marty just wants to bark. There must be another dog outside. He's very scary looking, but he's not scary. What was I gonna say? I had a thought and it left my head. Okay. Marty, are you all right, buddy? This is very on brand. Do you need to go outside? Here he is to cough on me. Okay, go away.
No.
Yes, I love you. Goodbye.
Marty, come on.
I was gonna say, okay, does anything ever surprise you about the process or how a book changes between drafts?
Yeah, I'm always surprised because even though we are so involved in the making of the sausage, I'm always surprised when you like hand me a kielbasa with your next chapter. Like, you've gone over chapter 1 like several times, as we've already said a million times. And I don't know, reading it this last time, I think I left you a comment that was like, I don't know what you did that was different. Like, I cannot point out to you what is different about this version of the chapter specifically, but it's different and it's better and it flows and it just clicks and it's all that. She's eating her bed. All that different stuff has coalesced in the sausage casing in a new way somehow. And I don't know what magic that is. Because I didn't watch you type it, but it's different. And that's always surprising to me, even though it happens. I'm just going to watch you live stream to me specifically. So I don't know how, that part is still like a little bit of magic to me. I will say doing all this with you has really demystified the writing process to me. And now it's no longer, sorry, she's going insane. Now it's no longer, oh gosh, writing is this mystical thing where you're like a wizard in a tower writing a book and it's amazing. Like now I understand all the work that goes into it. So now when I say, oh, I could never write a book, it's not because I don't know what goes into it. It's because I do know what goes into it and I'm absolutely not disciplined enough to do that, which is not to discourage people who think they're not disciplined. I guarantee you're more disciplined than me. So... Are you done, Madeline? Thank you. She's done. She's here. She's looking cute.
Oh, she's so cute.
Oh.
Sorry for everyone who doesn't want to see my dog.
Everybody wants to see your dogs. Let's be honest.
The whole point of video communication.
I request my manager show me his dog.
Is the roundabout circle, is the intangible kind of feelings. Like I know when you've made changes to the way scenes are ordered or like when I can notice sometimes when dialogue changes, but it's those subtle things you've done to narration in particular that I couldn't pick it out on a map, but it's better. And that is surprising to me every time.
What about you, Raven?
I feel like at least for fresh stuff, when I read a second iteration of a draft, or another draft kind of a thing, and I didn't know you were planning on changing something, and then same thing as Danielle was like, and then it worked so well, and you're like, dude, I thought the last thing was fine. Like I didn't have any
Yes.
question. I was like, yeah, that seems feasible and fresh and funky and whatever. That's cool. And then you revise it, and I'm like, I was sitting in the pub right next to them. Like
I was there.
This one, Raven, you saw
so good.
I think from what the last version you saw of the first chapter of Last Call, I think to the one you read today, like the plot is the same, but it's
the same things happen.
It's so
but not
different
in the same way.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I feel like, and here's the thing I'd say for authors and writers, like your beta readers are probably not going to have the solution to all the problems.
They don't.
They don't. Sometimes
we didn't think of Shitty Peter, or maybe you and Danielle did.
I did.
You figured it out. We didn't do nothing. We're like, that sucks. He sucks.
Even my agent was like, you have to make him more likable. And I was like, but do I? Because I hate him. I wish he didn't exist. Oh. Oh, yeah. And I feel like that's always what the problem is for me specifically, is that I need to simplify. And that's the thing with chapter 1, which I won't go into more detail about, but I simplified I'm always trying to over-explain stuff that really, it's like Sarah, like let's put it with like Nina and Ollie in Luck and Last Resorts. Remember that convoluted subplot where it's like, they don't like each other when they meet. This is not a spoiler. And I'm like, I need to find a way for them to become friends. I was coming up with like this crazy like plot where there was like this, remember there was like her like
mean boss
and coworker who was like framing her for theft.
Yeah. There was a lot more drama.
And it just never felt right. Because remember, I kept putting it in, taking it out, putting it in. And when I took it out the last time, I told y'all, do not let me put this back in. Like, don't let me. It wasn't until May, in the book, I handed it into my editor in September. It wasn't until May that I realized, oh, wait, like, what if they just like each other? Like, what if they just like each other and want to be friends? Like, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like simplifying is always my problem. But for writers, you don't have to, you're not going to take all the advice. Sometimes I will decide that when Danielle says something is wrong or not working, I will say, no, you are wrong, Danielle. But always, you are always right. I'll just say the flyer thing. I really fought you with the flyer thing, which y'all
that was a really good move.
And you will never I'll talk about it probably when that book comes out, but you probably won't. I had this really convoluted thing in chapter 1 of Last Call that it was too convoluted. And from the very first draft, Danielle was like, I think I would like it better if it wasn't because of the flyer. And I fought you on that for many, many drafts until I was like, damn it, Danielle's right again.
I think I got a voice note that was like, so you were right the whole time. But I'm trying to think, you convoluted things in Loveless and Fancy Ships in the beginning too, and not just Shitty Peter, but like even the things they were doing to fulfill the tasks on her list, I feel like, or the tasks on her list itself used to be different and more complicated.
Too.
Didn't you go backstage at a concert or something?
I had Magic Kingdom in the middle.
Oh, yes.
Because they
with the Cinderella Castle.
They didn't go to Coral Castle. And then Epcot was also in the middle. And now, that is spoiler alert if you haven't read that book. Like, it's been out for 5 months, okay? Like, go buy it and read it. Is later. I'll say that. And then they went to a concert. Remember they went to a concert?
Yes, I was going to say.
Raven was actually here in Raleigh. We were writing that weekend. And I was like, what kind of prank will they pull on Shitty Peter? And I could not figure it out. Sarah, because 1, Shitty Peter needs to leave. And 2, they don't need to be pulling a random prank at a concert for some person I made up. It was so bad. That doesn't exist. Like, that book, I don't know. Do you feel like the process has changed between books, or anything about the drafting and working process has changed?
Oh, definitely.
I feel like you streamlined it a lot more on your end. Like it was like
Yes.
this wild, like again, cast a wide net, this wild, huge thing that you had to like wrangle together. Whereas Nina was like, okay, wait. Oh, wait. And it's like, it was mostly like kind of steering it rather than like wrangling cats. Herding cats, I guess.
Wrangling cat.
Herding cats versus the cat standing in a line and sometimes trying to jet out. I don't know. It's still herding cats, I guess.
Speaking of
Herding cats versus herding sheep. Like some of them are still gonna
Yeah.
go off the course, but like they'll come back, and
Yeah.
that is definitely more what happened. And so it's a product of like you getting better at your process. And I definitely feel like I give better feedback now too. So I'm not saying like, oh, because I give better feedback, you're
But
better
you
at
do.
that.
I think you do though, because I think at least, or it's both. Like you're better at giving feedback. I'm also better at interpreting what your feedback means, because sometimes it, like you're saying what you mean, but the implication of that isn't always there. So like I always think of this chapter in Luck and Last Resorts, which is so bad. Remember the two Spider-Mans and their son in the basketball? What was that? And like I wrote that chapter, I was like, and Danielle's comments were just like, you didn't say like this chapter sucks, get rid of it. It was just when I'm writing, I look for the energy on the page, and when I'm reading your comments, I'm looking, what's Danielle's energy here? And if it's like, I'm like, this whole chapter probably needs to go. If it's like, my favorite comment about Jack?
Is it the 7%? Because I just got to that part today. I was so excited to see it live on the dock.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah, I said with every draft, he's getting 7% hornier.
Every draft, it's really
every draft.
This book is like so not at all what I thought it would be.
Yeah. I want to go back and clarify. We laughed a lot about the phrase Spider-Man and basketball, and no one else has any idea what that is.
No, they never will, because that was horrifying.
It was, yeah. Nina and Ollie were like watching neighborhood kids play basketball, and they had like, Sarah was like, wouldn't it be so funny if they like thought of them as their children? Like, oh, that's our son out there. And
it was not
they call
funny.
one of them Spider-Man. It was not funny.
It was so cringe. It was
very cringe.
Oh.
Sometimes
I would tell her more upfront now that it's cringe. I was too soft about it.
Well, and I think that, yes, I think the hardest part of starting a new beta relationship is like, for the beta, like, does this person really want feedback? Or do they want me to say nice things? Because especially if this is a person you know in real life, that could get pretty messy if the author does not really want feedback. Like, if you're asking a beta reader for feedback and they're telling you things that, like, sometimes, I mean, very rarely I'm like, oh, when I get like a comment now, but I mean, it's still going to be like, crap, I tried that, it didn't work, and that's a bummer. Now I really kind of don't think that as much, because usually I know that something's wrong, or I want to think there's not something wrong. But when you say it, I'll be like, what? There was one recently where I was like, oh, I think it was what Ollie said that didn't fit his vibe. I was like, I knew that wasn't working. Like, I feel like the reason the process is a little bit more streamlined is that we all trust our intuition a little bit more as writers and readers.
And that was hard at the beginning. That was hard in the first book. So, like, if you're someone who's just starting out with giving feedback or getting feedback, like, we only have these, like, you know, we've always had fun comments, but, like, we've only had, I think, as efficient of comments, because this is, like you said, this is book 4.5 that we're working on now, which is insane to say out loud. But yeah, so I wouldn't, it's like, I mean, it's like becoming friends with anybody. Like, you gotta find your vibe, and it will happen, and it will take time.
Trust you guys to, because I would rather y'all call me out on something than readers.
Like a stranger?
Yeah.
Like strangers.
Yeah.
Because, you know, am I ever going to not be able to look at reviews? Probably not, because I have no impulse control. But, you know, I'd rather my friends who care about me and, like, I'm assuming they like my work because they keep reading it. I mean, I write it for them, to tell me if something's not working and it does not hurt my feelings. I'm just like, great, now I can fix it. What advice do you have for people who are giving, like either someone's critique partner or someone who's giving feedback? I know, throwing you a curveball
I
here.
feel like it's one of those classic like writing critique things that regardless if you're a writing partner or just a beta is like say stuff that you liked. That's like so important. Don't just look to like tear something apart because then they might scrap stuff that's really good. Say stuff that you don't like or didn't think quite worked, and you don't have to give a suggestion. That's the author's job, and your suggestion might not be helpful. But if you do give a suggestion, it might give them a jumping off point, even if it's not that. And something that you wish or think might happen in the future. Like say you got a chunk, you're like, okay, this was making me think these things. So now you're also getting like what your expectation as a reader is, and then that person can decide that's what I'm going for, or oh, that's not this kind of book. Okay, I've done something incorrect here, but that way it's like the good, the bad, and the hopeful. Like, what do you want?
Yes. Oh, that's so, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Can we tell Raven's the more professional?
She's the most professional of all of us. Like, let's be real.
She's the most professional of all of us. She's got the longest hair. She's got the most professional
Gosh,
of them.
Raven, with your long hair, and
So
your
professional.
and your smart words.
Yeah, with the lipstick, yes. She's so put together. She's so put together.
I had to be on cam today on at work, so you put lipstick on so people think you're put together.
I wore a hair turban when my hair was wet to a work meeting. We clearly have very
You're
different
an inspiration to me.
I just have no F's left to give. Let's be real. Did I ever have them? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What
Maybe
advice do you
Sarah
have,
from
Danielle?
college might
Sarah?
say no.
Sarah from
No
college.
F's.
Oh God, that's
No
a whole
F's
other
given.
life.
I am not good at advice in most contexts. I would say, like, put your personality in it too. Like, the writer that you are critiquing or beta reading for, or whatever the context is. You know, you don't have to be like, well, in paragraph 4, subsection C, I felt very strongly that your use of the Oxford comma, you know, you don't have to do
That would
that.
suck the joy for me. That would suck the joy from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like professional, even though we were just complimenting Raven on that. It doesn't have to be like, I'm writing this feedback for a class kind of thing, and you can find the right casual vibe with your, like, all about finding each other's vibes and stuff, but having your own personality in it. And then if it's someone you don't know, if you can share what your perspective is, like what kind of reader you are. Like if you're someone who's like, listen, I love romance and I like X, Y, and Z, like I will let a lot of stuff slide if people are gonna fake date and then have to share a bed. Like I will not be calling you out on anything but the most egregious of plot
That is true.
discrepancies. So it's nice to know that too, and it doesn't have to be that specific, but if you're like starting a new partnership or whatever, letting them know what kind of reader you are going into it, I think can be helpful. And it's nice to have people who don't always read the same genre like you were saying before, but don't be, and if they don't like, if your personalities don't jive, then it's probably not worth trying to keep critiquing each other, unless you're stuck critiquing each other for a class and then you fall in love in the marginalia of your draft comments, which if anyone writes that, let me know.
Danielle is really fun to get comments from because it's just, I mean, even Raven, you're more like, you comment a lot more on like craft level or like, okay, this would definitely not work, but still your comments are really fun, where I think today it was like, ya boys got jokes. That is the most fun. I mean, I love sharing my writing with y'all because it's fun to know what you think about it and get your feedback. Even when you don't like something, like the jokes are like, it's like I always say I wish that we could publish a like annotated version of like one of the books, but like the beta reader annotated version. I think that would be really fun. Actually, Danielle offered to to do one of those.
I will. Should we do we could do a giveaway or something?
Yes.
Celebrate Pub
Can
Day.
I-
I would write all kinds of notes in the
Yes,
margins
because-
of your
Can I
book.
just get a copy
Yeah.
of that? Just
I know, like I want one. I want to print them out because sometimes I hate to resolve the comments because they're so fun, and I think I don't have some of the early docs from like Nina's book, and I'm like, no, because here's one thing though. I will say, Danielle, that sometimes something that you're like, this is not going to work. I'm like, now I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah, it's the spite instinct.
It is the
And I
cartwheels.
appreciate
Okay. The cartwheels. One of my favorite comments you ever made. So there's this scene in Luck and Last Resorts where Nina's teaching Ollie how to do a cartwheel. It sounds so, and I told you about it, and you were like, yeah, I don't think so. That comment, I was like, I'm gonna make this work. That created her entire backstory. And my favorite comment on a draft of that book was, the real gymnastics is how you made this work.
It's true. And I can admit when I have been proven wrong, because Spite Game recognizes Spite Game, and I appreciate that you said, no, I'm going to do this. And then you did. And you sold me on it. And that's how you know it was good, because I didn't like it in the first place. And then I did like it.
Yeah.
So.
And if you didn't still like it, I would have taken it out.
Yeah.
But that I got real committed to that gymnast backstory like, real quick.
You did. That was not even a whisper of a notion writing the first book.
It wasn't. I was like, crap. I could make sure it works with the first book. Kind of going with that, what is the most challenging part of beta reading? And that can be beta reading in general or beta reading for me specifically. If you want to roast me right now. That's the Butts Live.
I love that. I mean, I am also ADHD, so ask and share. Like literally, just sit the frick down and read it. Like I just sometimes I can't sit and do it. And then once I do, I'm like, oh my god, that's so good. Like I walked around today with like my iPad because I realized I could read it on my iPad and it didn't have to be locked to a computer. And it was like better than the phone because the phone I read way too fast. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do that part though. But yeah, because honestly, actually reading it and giving responses, I think especially because we trust each other and are so comfortable that I can be like, LMAO, who would ever do this? And like know that you're not going to be like, we can't be friends now.
I'm friend breaking up with you.
Yeah, so it's like, and then there's going to be super funny stuff. So like if I literally laugh out loud, like I don't know, it's fun because then it's fun to see like, girl, why did you think this would work? And then you fix it and you're like, you got it. Yeah, the whole thing is like such because you bring in such good energy to when you're trying to get feedback. It's never like okay, like I basically want you to say it's perfect. Like you're always like, what are your actual thoughts?
Drag
like,
me, queen.
Yes.
Yeah, literally. That's the vibe for sure. I think what was challenging at the beginning for me, and I think it's improved over time, is knowing what to comment on, especially in the beginning when there were a lot of like hot mess chapters where I was like, well, I know she's going to go back and fix this because obviously it has problems, but I didn't know what to tell you the problems were. But that has improved the more that I've read and given you feedback. And honestly, what's helped me in the beta reading process is also I've been reading so many more advanced copies on NetGalley, and like the obligation to provide a review is there. And I never used to review my books before, and now when I read an ARC, I think I'm breaking some sacred oath or something, by the way, because everyone seems to not leave very negative reviews, but I will.
I will leave. I will.
I try to be fair with the stars, but I try in my, if I didn't like something, I'm not going to lie about it.
If you want to know what Danielle thinks about books, if you like what she says, you can follow her on Goodreads, I guess.
Yeah.
Or not. Or don't do it. I don't know.
Contact me at my library where I will proceed to forget every book I've ever read when you ask me for a recommendation. But that, honestly, reviewing published books has been or about to be published books has been really helpful in framing critiques, because now when I've read books where something didn't click for me, I'm having to practice articulating that in a review, because if I'm going to say something negative, I'm going to couch it. Like Raven said, the good, the bad, the hopeful. I will say, like, I really enjoyed this part. I didn't think this worked for me. And now in my reviews, I've noticed that I'm saying, like, this didn't work for me, and I think it would have worked better if this had happened instead. Not to say, like, hey, authors, I know what I'm doing more than you. I don't. I'm just, for me personally, when something doesn't work, and it's less about, like, I just didn't like this, and it's more about, like, I didn't buy that they were ready to do this for each other at this stage in their relationship. Like, I wanted to see more growth between them before that, and I'm like, oh, I sound so professional.
Such a pro.
So that practicing giving feedback in a context where it's not personal and it's not me directly affecting a draft is actually really helping me, because as you can tell from all of this rambling, I'm not very good at concisely articulating my thoughts. It's a personality flaw.
I don't think any of the three of us are. And definitely, so we have a fourth best friend too, and she is not here. She beta reads sometimes. She really reads late, very late in the process. She's very busy. And
Amelia has a lot of real life.
Yeah, she has
Yeah.
We love you, Amelia, but none of us are concise. We will send each other like 10-minute long voice notes. It's like, better listen at 2 times speed. Sarah's rant.
This has been our entire relationship as well, by the way. So, like, if you are watching us and going, wow, gee, they sound exactly like me, find other friends, like, I don't know, find other friends who do this, because we have, Amelia and I used to legitimately read our papers out loud to each other and talk through our papers in our dorm room. For classes, we were not
together, by the way.
We were not in the same class. We were in some of the same classes, but it would be like, okay, here's the entire context of the class up until this point. Here's the context of this assignment, and here's what I'm trying to work through in my paper. Like, all of us would do this with each other, and now we're just doing it on Sarah's published novels, which is
basically Danielle's advice is find a bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
Find a bunch of fucking nerds who will let you talk at them for 30 minutes straight, and then you're set for life, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
All right, I have one last question for you. This might be a tougher one, but do you have either a last comment, or is there a specific memory you have from reading Loveless and Fancy Ships and Luck and Last Resorts that's either, funny or enjoyable, or just that sticks out to you? We might have already talked about them because we talked about quite a few. So either that, or some last advice, and tell people where if you want to tell them where they can find you online, you can. They want to get more of your wisdom.
Okay, I don't have one locked and loaded for comments, memories, but one thing that I realized that I think is very different from when I worked with you and versus the 2 people I attempted to work with, or like somebody who handed me something, is they tried to hand me like a whole book as a draft. And that was really hard, because then I would get bogged down in beginning chapter stuff and be like, this thing needs to change the trajectory of the rest of it. And now I don't know where to, and it's really overwhelming, but I love that we'll get chapter 1. Okay, chapter 1 through 3. And then it's like you incrementally are adding, or suddenly you go chapter 10. Don't worry about the middle. Okay. And so it's like you're only getting snapshots. So it's so much easier to dive in and give the good, like the deeper level of edits, because if you handed me like 300 pages, like,
it's like,
I don't know. I'll see you in 6 months. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
so
I would
really
feel like you
that
couldn't
style.
say a suggestion, because then it's like, well, I want you to have them not work on a super yacht, but that's where the whole rest of the book takes place. Like, that would be the vibe. And
Yeah.
I think that's great advice, because and other authors might feel differently. I think a lot of authors don't want to share something in the earlier stages, but it does make it, I like doing that because, 1, I need constant validation, but 2, it's a lot easier to make those big changes sooner. And there are things that I wouldn't know if I hadn't gotten your feedback. Yeah. So Danielle, what's your parting either advice or memory?
Well, one thing that I remember was when reading, like, even very early drafts of Loveless and Fancy Ships, I was out here commenting. I was shipping Nina and Ollie so hard. I was like, so these guys are fucking, right? Like, I was just like, they have to be secretly dating. They have to, like, in my head, in the fan fiction I will not write for you, but will think about, they are hooking up on every inch of the super yacht in the background, and no one has noticed. And then Sarah was like, so book 2 is going to be about Nina and Ollie. And I was like, I have ideas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think many of them made it. It's all Sarah's ideas. In the
I don't
book
know.
too.
I think probably they it's like our minds meld at a certain point sometimes. We decided our hot single dad, what we like in a hot single dad Venn diagram is just a circle.
It's a circle. It's a circle. I didn't even know hot single dad was a type of man I was interested in until Sarah started writing Loveless and Fancy Ships, and I was like, I need to reevaluate something.
Okay, well, thank you so much for hanging out with me for over an hour. You know I love you, and we will be talking soon. Thanks to everyone who was here watching. You must not have anything better to do with your life, but that's okay. I still love you.
You're all our friends now, by the way.
We're all friends now.
No baby brains up in here.
That's how that happens. My next episode of That's the Butts Live, I'm so excited because it's going to be May 18th, and Sarah Hogle is going to be on. And I know Danielle's like fangirling because you're the one who had me read her books, and now I'm like obsessed with her. I'm president of her fan club. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, be back on the 18th for Sarah Hogle. It's going to get weird. We are going to be reading selections from our unpublished works that failed. So I'm very excited about it.
Amazing.
All right, I'm going to go put my kid to bed. So have a great night, everybody, and we will talk soon. I will talk to y'all in the voice chat.
Yes.
Bye, new friends.
Bye.